Hello. I love Super Nintendo. I eat, sleep and live everything SNES. I love Super Nintendo. Now, the wait is almost over. On Friday begins the most exciting spectacle in all of rugby. Forget the Six Nations, forget the Autumn Internationals. We are talking the Rugby World Cup 2011. This will decide, over a total of 48 games for 5.5 weeks, which rugby team, which country is the best in the world. Now, to pay homage to such an amazing sporting venture, we will be looking at the only rugby game released on the Super Nintendo, World Class Rugby. Rugby video games are few and far between. Many sporting giants such as FIFA, Madden and the WWE release yearly updates for their games, where the games are basically the same, but with an updated roster and maybe a few changes to gameplay. However, the International Rugby Board has never been one to jump on this bandwagon. In fact, the IRB do not release yearly games, and so the last rugby game released for any console was back in 2007. However, the Rugby World Cup sees the release of 2 new rugby games this year. Rugby World Cup 2011, endorsed by the IRB, and Rugby World Challenge, endorsed by the great Jonah Lomu. However, this review isn't about either of those games, it's about the Super Nintendo game World Class Rugby. Rugby games generally have a way of being absolute garbage, and the only game that has ever been any good was Jonah Lomu Rugby, released in 1997 for the PC, PlayStation and Sega Saturn. One of the main reasons for this was the great commentary.
Digs like a demented mole there.
So, will World Class Rugby be like the most of other rugby games and be absolute trash, or will it actually break the mould and be any good? Let's take a look and judge for ourselves. First of all, let's look at the choice of countries that this game offers. We get offered a choice of 16 international rugby teams to choose from, and many of the greats are here. All of the Six Nations teams are here, as well as other popular teams such as Australia and the All Blacks. Okay, so there is no South Africa team, but I can't imagine too many people care about that omission. In fact, if anything, the game should get extra marks for including Zimbabwe and Romania, but leaving the Springboks out. Now that's funny. At the beginning of the game, you get to choose between a cup, league or friendly matchup. The cup and league games are pre-set, and so rather than choosing to be one team and only playing their games, you can in fact choose to play every single game, watch some games, or even skip over them altogether. Sure, it's nice to choose one team and follow them to victory, but it's also nice to know that when things aren't quite going your way, you can quickly jump ship. Finally, this game tries to be cute. The little cutscenes in between games are sweet and give you that Nintendo World Cup feel that so many games nowadays are lacking. Believe me, no, really believe me when I say that everything that could be wrong with this game is wrong with this game. Bad controls, check. Not being allowed to play, check. Every single thing you could think of is wrong with this game. First off, let's talk about the controls. Now, the Super Nintendo control pad, as you all know, has a variety of buttons. Forget the D-pad, you've got 4 face buttons here, you've also got the 2 shoulder buttons. So why is it that World Class Rugby expects you to play the entire game, every single part of it, with the B button? One button. What's up with that? The idea is that if you press B and a backwards direction on the controller, the player will pass to the next player, whereas if you press B and forwards, then the player will punt the ball upfield. Then, if you're in a ruck, tapping B rapidly makes your team push forwards. Why? Are there not enough buttons on this controller to make them do different things? Half the time you kick the ball when you mean to pass it. You throw it wildly to no one when you thought you were entering a ruck, not to mention the number of times that you pass to the opposing team. Another thing is just how quickly you're expected to tap the buttons when you're in a ruck or a maul. I tap every single button as fast as I can, and yet nothing happens. They overpower me. This is madness. I'm actually getting RSI in my fingertips from playing this game. Now, let's talk about the gameplay, because frankly, it sucks. Passing is so difficult and so sporadic that there's really only one option when you get the ball. Run. The problem is that as soon as you start running straight down the pitch, the opposing players catch you in no time. Then you find yourself in a ruck, and surprise, surprise, they overturn you. So the only other option is to run diagonally. At least this keeps the opposition away. However, of course, you can only run diagonally for a certain amount of time before you get to the edge of the pitch. And then, what happens? Surprise, surprise, ruck, and you get overturned. It's just such a waste of time. This game becomes a back and forth battle where you're just desperate to get lucky and score a try. But luck is in short supply in this game, even for the lucky Irish. I don't know which rugby experts they had programmed this game, but this is not a game of rugby. First of all, the forwards and the backs are just far too set in their way. Okay, I guess that's fine. But every time the ball is grounded, you have to wait for your forwards to come lumbering over to start scrapping for the ball. If this happened in real life, the game would be so repetitive. So even if you're on a good run, the chances are that as soon as you are tackled, you have to wait a few painstaking seconds for your forwards to jog over and fight for the ball. And if the opposing forwards get there first, you've lost it. Another thing is that every time there is a line-out or a scrum, you have to choose a set play. I don't care, just push. Just throw and catch the damn ball. These last two problems are a sure sign of one thing, and that is that the developers had no idea what a game of rugby was. Set plays, forwards and backs not working together. This is not a rugby game, this has been programmed as an American football game. Now, don't get me wrong, I got nothing wrong with American football. I enjoy a good game of American football just like the next person. However, set plays and having different teams for defending and attacking, that's American football. That's not rugby. So maybe the developers need to find out the actual rules of rugby before they try and make a rugby game. Just a thought. All these other problems would be easy to ignore if it was not for one big problem. You have no control over the game. None at all. As far as I can tell, this is not a rugby game. It's a program that simulates rugby games for you to watch and take no part in. I might be sat here like a monkey, jamming on buttons as hard as I can and getting excited when my team are advancing, but if I'm honest with myself, I'm having no control over this game at all. There is enough rugby on the television at the moment that if I wanted to watch a game of rugby, I'd watch a game of rugby. I wouldn't put this game in and pretend that I was taking part when actually I'm not at all. Finally, everything takes forever. World-class rugby is one of the worst rugby games, if not one of the worst games I have ever played. It is absolutely appalling. So what is it that keeps me going back, I hear you ask? If I'm honest, I've asked myself the exact same question, and I've only come up with one answer. Determination. Determination to actually win a game and feel like I've been part of it. One of the biggest difficulties to actually winning the games is that every time you find yourself in a ruck or a maul or a scrum, you're expected to tap every single button as fast as you can with superhuman speed. Well, I'm sorry, but it's just not possible. What you really need to be able to win a game is some kind of advantage. No, wait. Not an advantage. And just an advantage is not good enough. You need a super advantage. You need a Super Nintendo Super Advantage. Here it is. The Super Nintendo Super Advantage. So, here's what we do. We take every single button and whack it to turbo. That way, whenever I enter a ruck or a maul or anything like that, all I gotta do is hold down all of the buttons I can. Then, as far as the computer is concerned, I am tapping these buttons with superhuman speed. I'm sorry, there is no way I am losing rucks or mauls with the super advantage. Let's get it done.
Good ball.
How is this even possible? I'm losing rucks and mauls with the super advantage. This is ridiculous. This isn't superhuman speed, it's like mega uber human speed. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this thing is just not gonna help. Not even the super advantage can crack world-class rugby. Ugh. Oh wait. What's this? Ah. Now we're talking a mega uber advantage. Not only is this an advantage pad, but it's made by Imagineer, the same company that developed world-class rugby. Well, I'm sorry, but if their own pad can't beat this game, then nothing can. Now here's how this is going to happen. One more game. I'm going to pick one of the best teams in the world and pit myself against one of the worst teams in the world. If I win, this game will get a fairly favourable review. However, if I lose, nothing in the world can stop me from burying this game with one of the worst reviews I have ever given. So, let's see how it goes. Yes! 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 So, let's calculate this then. 20% for allowing me to win with the Imagineer controller, 7% for leaving out South Africa, and 5% for actual game gives world-class rugby 32% on the Super Nintendo. Okay, so next time I have something very special planned for one of you. I am going to do a tribute to one of my viewers. Now, I get requests every so often, and what I've decided to do is pick one and dedicate the review to that viewer. Don't say I never do anything for you. So, make sure you check back next time when we are going to be doing the first ever Super Nintendo Fanboy tribute review. Make sure you're there.